Hello everyone, George DeSantis here with a look at the market for the week ending September 7th, 2018. And as usual, before we look at charts, let's take a look at the disclaimer. Note that it clearly states I'm not a professional investment advisor, so don't consider this to be investment advice. Seek that out from a professional investment advisor. Let's look at some charts. Here's the weekly chart of the S&P 500. And first we start with the moving averages. So we can see that the 4 exponential moving average is above the 9 exponential moving average. And both of them are above the 30 weighted moving average. So insofar as moving averages go, the trend is still up. As far as the price bars are concerned, we can see that, as I pointed out a week ago, price came pretty close to hitting the upper Bollinger Band, the yellow dotted line. And usually that's 2 standard deviations away from the mean, and therefore it's hardly likely to exceed that for any length of time. So we pull back. So last week we pulled back a bit. We can see this red bar here. And we closed pretty close to the 4 EMA at 2871. Remember when we were talking about 2800 being the resistance level. Now it should be support. The 50-day moving average is here. Well, it's actually the 50-week on this chart. It's a weekly chart. This magenta line. So we've pulled back to the 4 EMA, and these averages are still above each other. So the trend is still technically up. The major concern, as far as I'm concerned, is this divergence of MACD. As S&P made a new high, MACD made a new high. And then we got the breaking of the back of the bulls, as Alex would put it. And since then, we rallied. But as the S&P made an even higher high, MACD made a lower high. So that's a classic bearish divergence of MACD. And when it is on a weekly chart, it is not wise to ignore it completely. So we've got to keep that in mind. However, these things don't always play out the way we expect them to. RSI 12 is still above 60%. So unless we break that and we come down close to the 40% line, we're still in pretty good shape, it seems, according to these oscillators here, these indicators. So Williams percentile likewise is still above 50%. That's pretty bullish. And even the sum of the rate of change indicator is above 4%. So while we have this warning sign, this yellow flag, I don't think it's reason to panic at this point. So let's take a look at the daily chart. On the daily chart, you can clearly see that, as I mentioned last week, for 3 days we closed at or above the upper Bollinger Band, 2 standard deviations. And so it was to be expected that we're going to pull back from there. And we did pull back from there in the last week or so, and 5 or 6 trading days. And we are now closing right at the 30 weighted moving average. Now the 9 is still above the 30. The 4 just crossed below the 9, but the 9 is still above the 30. And this is what I would usually call a buy zone. So I'm expecting to see some buying here. Of course, I could be dead wrong on that. Well, let's say just wrong, not dead wrong. But I'm expecting to see some buying here, and finding support at the 30 weighted moving average, for the 30-day moving average. We'll see if that holds true. The market is becoming oversold here. I'll show you that on another chart. MACD pulled back. We went below the 0 line, so the bears are somewhat in charge here, at least for now. We crossed below the 60% line with RSI 12, and Williams percentile is still above 50%. The sum of the rate of change indicator is now below 4%. So the daily chart is showing, of course, more weakness. It's a shorter term chart. But as I said, I expect to find some support here. We'll see what happens. Now, I mentioned that it seems to me the S&P is fast approaching oversold region. So let's take a look at the Shiken analytic chart on SPY, because they don't show the SPX. So we have to use SPY. They compare it with the IWV, which is the Russell 3000 index fund. And what you can see here is that it hit the Shiken's upper band here. It's not really the Bollinger Band. It's a channel they developed, unique to them. And it's pulled back to the middle line here, the moving average of about, I think it's a 20-day moving average or 21-day moving average. So what you can see is it pulled back here. We see that. And we can see that the oscillator, the overbought oversold oscillator, is now approaching oversold at 30% at this 30 line. I believe it's 30%. But if you look below here, you can see the relative strength versus the Russell 3000 is trending up. And the fact that the money flow is still good is still showing pretty strong here. So I think that's worthwhile taking note of. On best choice, what we see with the SPY is that since we crossed above the 50% line about here, let's get rid of the crosshairs, since we crossed above it, we seem to find support at the 50% line, and that's where we're sitting now. So I'm anticipating that we will find support here, and that we get another bit of a rally making an even higher high. So we'll see how it plays out. Here's a daily chart of the QQQ, which is an ETF on the Nasdaq, and of course, I want to show you here that it's now basically sitting right above the 50-day moving average, exponential moving average. So it seems to me we found support here in the past. We found support here in the past, and pretty close to this region here. So hopefully we'll find some support here again, unless we get some bombshell from you know who. It could be anywhere. So we'll see how it plays out. So let's look at some individual stocks. Apple, as usual, start off with Apple. You can see how it rode the upper Bollinger Band. Doesn't do that for very long before it pulls back. And it pulled all the way back to between the 9 and the 30, which is really, in many cases, a buy signal, a buy zone. So we'll see how that develops from here. But apparently Apple is coming out with new phones in a couple of weeks or months, maybe in a month, and we'll see how they grow from here. There's Microsoft, another one I own. You can see how similarly it rode the upper Bollinger Band, closed above it, etc., pulled back, and it's now showing us some dojis, which could mean that the major part of the selling is over. Let's hope so. And some of the other indicators have broken below some lines, some key levels here, like the Williams percentile dropped below 50, and some of the rate of change indicator dropped below 4%. So it looks as though we might find some support above the 50-day moving average. We'll see how it is. And this is MasterCard, and you can say the same thing as we did for Microsoft. Ride the upper Bollinger Band, consolidate, pull back between the 9 and the 30. Doji telling us maybe the selling is over here, but major part of selling is over. We'll see. I think we're going to find support here. There's IDXX, which I still own, but we had a pretty good pullback here, and again I'm expecting some support here. So yeah, these indicators have now broken below the key lines. Here's NVIDIA. Many of these charts look so similar. You're getting the idea. The closing between the 9 and the 30, that is with a small body candle here. So hopefully, we're likely to find, not hopefully, we're likely to find support at the 30-day weighted moving average. Here's FFTY, the ETF of the IBD 50 growth stocks, and you can see how it's sort of finding support between the 9 and the 30. Look at this green candle engulfing this red candle. So I believe that's what's going to turn out to be true for the rest of the NASDAQ. And the NASDAQ leads the rest of the market in most cases. Here's Square. I bought this a little while ago. And I like how the chart looks here. This is a daily chart. I like how it looks. It's showing some strength even in a market that's been consolidating and pulling back. So I like that. We'll see how it plays out. Here's Netflix. I don't own it right now, but Netflix looks as though after hitting the upper Bollinger Band, it has drawn back here, and it seemed to be finding support here. You have a bullish engulfing candle here, this body engulfing this, and so all these moving averages clustering together. It seems to me Netflix is finding support right here. Here's Visa. Say the same thing for Visa. You see it's sitting right on the 30 weighted moving average, and so I'm expecting this to continue to to move higher from here. It rode the upper Bollinger Band as many of the other stocks did, pull back, and now it seems to be finding support at the 30-day weighted moving average. I owned Visa for a long time. Here's Costco, and Costco bucked the trend. I mean, even though things were moving, a lot of stocks were moving down. Look at what Costco did on very nice volume and MACD, on a very nice big bar on MACD. And look at all these indicators looking good. So Costco is a good one. I don't own it right now. I wish I did. Here's Adobe. Very similar chart to some of the other ones like Microsoft and so on. Riding the upper Bollinger Band, close above the upper Bollinger Band, pull back. Now between the 9 and the 30 and finding support. Bullish bars. So I'm not sweating this one at all. I still own it. And here's Etsy. Etsy seemed to be finding support here too. Nice bullish bar on Friday. So we pull back after hitting the upper Bollinger Band, and then we find support here around the 30 weighted moving average. I sent you an email with a list of stocks that I analyzed on Shaikin Analytics, stocks listed on 4 IBD lists, and on September 2nd. And so let's take a look at them. This is ATKR. It pulled back. Remember the seasonal trade is really November 3rd to December 29th. So maybe it's early to be thinking of this. And it was early anyway. Here's one that shows up on a lot of lists. CNC, which is Centene Corporation Healthcare Plans. And it's at 146.05. So it's a little below where we looked at it. But it's supposed to have a seasonal between October 15 and December 12. There's IAC Interactive. It's up a little. It's up to 201.35. We first looked at it at 197. So there's a little bit of a move there. It's supposed to trend up between 8.6 and 10.1. Here's another one, PGR. That's Progressive Insurance, I believe it is. And it's now at 68.87. We first looked at it 67.53, up a little. But it's just in a week or so. This one is Apple, the seasonal trade, October 7 to December 9. And it's down a little since we looked at it. It was at 227 when we looked at it. Here's Ross Stores. And when we looked at it, we had a price of 95.78. So it's up a little. But I'm just giving you the list of them. And the other one on the list was Visa. And of course, we know all about Visa. Finding support here, 143.20. Now, the previous ones were bullish or very bullish. These are neutral on the Shaikin Analytics. And this one, you can see is now at 216.23. Here's O'Reilly Automotive. Since we looked at it, it was about 335.42, and it went up a nice little, it went up to 346.12 now. So that's a nice move. The last one is Ring. Software application, and it's up a little, 93.90. We looked at it at 93.15. So you might want to keep that list handy, and I'm going to do so. I'm going to check it out. I've already bought Ross Stores. I'm looking to buy O'Reilly. Have a good weekend. We'll see you later. See you next week. Bye-bye.